we had some internal discussions and kind of rearranged the schedule to try and give the PT students a little more support and guidance, because I feel like our previous mentorship programs were primarily among either graduate students or students that have a lot more familiarity with the students on the other side. And so we put together some material that we felt would be helpful for you today on today's session. And then for the benefit of like Jumana and Nawad and Hiba, Salim, I think what we're going to try and do is take the process a little bit slower and separate the groups by interests and experience. So for today, I wanted to cover some logistics issues and address what the sessions might look like, what topics might be of interest to speak about or discuss, and then the etiquette, the general etiquette of the session, and then lastly, introduce you to the online system where you could sign up and log in your hours and share the experience that you've had with the students. So just again, today we'll talk about session suggested topics, the mentor online system overview, the session process, and then the session etiquette. And let me just make sure we've got everybody here. Yeah, and I would love for, and also we'll reintroduce the team at the VIP fund so that it's clear for you who's who. So before maybe we start, we'll just do another quick round of introductions for the VIP team. This way, I heard from some of you guys that it wasn't clear who is who and what each of the team members are involved in on our side. So let's start with you, Hiba Salim.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm a junior board member at the VIP fund. I lived in Syria up until 5 years ago, and then I left to Cambridge, UK to do a master's and PhD in education, focusing on education for refugees. And now I work, I do research in Cambridge as a research associate. And hopefully I'll be the main point of contact basically for the mentors and mentees, trying to match everyone and basically work with you to make this program successful.
Great, thank you. Rasha's not with us yet, but when she joins, I'll have her introduce herself. She's going to be a backup for Hiba, and we'll make sure that this, like if for any reason Hiba's unable to respond to anything, Rasha will be the secondary point of contact for the program. May, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is May Barazi. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm one of the board members, and I am also, I have a Barazi fund in memories of my parents. I've worked with refugees since 2003. And I think if it's okay with you, Rama, I can be a backup for Rasha. In case Rasha was in need or she was overwhelmed, I can also be of support to her.
Yeah, and if you guys have any recommendations for training programs, May will be leading on working on the training program that we have running in parallel to this peer-to-peer mentorship relationship. So the training programs I spoke about briefly yesterday are online webinars and training sessions where someone with a specific skill set, like I know how to create resumes, or I know how to, teach a certain tool or something, will deliver, and everybody else in attendance is learning. And it's a one-to-many, so it's one person who's training and there are many attendees, and that's very different than what you guys are going to have, which is one-to-one sessions. And so if you have recommendations or an interest in participating in the training program, then May is the person that you would get in touch with. I also want to make sure that I mention that after today's call, you will receive a package by email that describes the P2P, the peer-to-peer mentor program in detail, give you a list of all of the emails, the contact persons, and everything that we've discussed so far to make it super clear. And part of that would also be a document that is kind of like a disclaimer. We're having our mentees sign it, our students, and we'll ask you to sign it. And this is for your own kind of comfort level, that there's no responsibility that you're taking upon yourselves as part of this program. And it's kind of a volunteer program without that obligation. All right, so I've introduced the folks that are in the VIP fund. Oh, I also want to have Hiba and Anas introduce themselves. Hiba, do you want to introduce yourself? Hiba Arabi. We have two Hibas in the VIP fund. I'm not sure if she can hear us or if her so Hiba Arabi is a administrator at the VIP fund. She lives in Spain, and she kind of manages across programs, certain logistics. She's the one who's sending you the invitations to these Zoom calls. Anas is a developer with the VIP fund. He manages the online systems that we have. And so when we introduce this today and walk you through how you sign up to log your hours, if you have any questions or issues with the system, you get an error or something's not going through well, then Anas would be the person to raise that issue with. All right, so now that we have everyone, I'm just gonna restate today. We're just gonna do a quick review of the session formats when you actually meet one-on-one with the students, suggested topics that you might want to discuss with them, overall kind of etiquette for the sessions, and then we'll give you an overview of how to log in your hours. It is an interactive call, so please, if you have any questions or suggestions or recommendations, do participate. I would like to start with the topics, because a lot of what was discussed yesterday was centered around, okay, what would we talk about, and what direction does this go in? So these are suggestions. You can definitely go into more topics. The first thing that I would recommend that you start with is thinking that you want to inspire them to look beyond their life in the camp or as a refugee, especially for the students that are, this is for the ones that you're talking to who are in camps, but there are others who might, not for the PT students, for the others, they may not be in refugee camps. And so you want to inspire them to look beyond that. You want to invite the students to share their life before displacement, and that's something we felt gave us a better understanding. A lot of them come from homes that are, they owned farms, they have homes that are quite extensive. Parents were doctors. There's just a variety of circumstances, and it would help frame your understanding of where they come from. And you can branch out from that discussion into many details about what was your school like, what was your community like. And the next is maybe ask them about things that they've learned after displacement. So now that they're in this environment, what were skills that they've acquired? What were things that they've learned about the host communities that they're living in? And what changed about their life before and after? Opening up a discussion about the national holidays you observe or they observe, and the significance of those holidays. And they could be national holidays, or like, for example, I'm Iranian, we celebrate Nowruz. This is what Nowruz is about, how it works, etc. That could be a topic of discussion. Sports personalities and sports interests would be another common ground or difference. and then people who inspire you or your role models, and then invite them to consider who inspires them. A day, like day-to-day life at school, describing what it looks like for you and what it may look like for them. And then any after-school activities or interests, whether you are in high school or you're in college, and have those things to share. School programs that you may have gone into, volunteerism, awards that you've received through that, and then music interests, crafts, arts, cooking, etc. And then lastly, culture similarities and differences. And I gave an example here. When we provide this mentor training program, we usually get into things like body language and what it means in the cultural context that you're in. And we can offer up this material for you to walk through with them, or come up with yourselves, if you feel that that's something you could research and recommend. I want to stop here and see if you guys have any comments on what I said, or have any ideas that I may not have presented. Anyone?
Rama, I guess just to understand the framing a bit. So these are like teenagers or of different ages, perhaps, that are coming into this almost like yesterday you mentioned a form of paper, not PayPal, pen friend or pen pal. So in a way, it is really like a human connection where just like they would be able to expand their horizon from different avenues, this is one additional avenue, or one of the limited avenues that they have within the context that they have to have sort of a wider span of access to things, to humanity, to personalities, to skill sets, is that?
Yes. So the goal of the peer-to-peer mentorship program is to connect students with their peers in other parts of the world, our students who are either refugees or displaced by the conflict, and to exchange ideas, experiences, and skills with the aim to expand their horizon, and knowledge. And we try and do it in a measurable and sustainable way. So, we're saying make it regular, make it measurable by providing feedback, and then to foster this kind of long-lasting human connection virtually, and then share that experience with others outside of this group to inspire others to participate. And so that's, again, when I started this call, I said there are unique aspects for the Project Turquoise team, because you guys came in, you're younger than some of the other mentors that we've had in the past. And you also have the unique experience of having visited there, but also the unique experience of not being from the same culture. A lot of our other mentors either speak Arabic or have had that experience. And so the ability to relate is it comes quite naturally or intuitively. And so what I'm focusing on this session is primarily for the benefit of the Project Turquoise participants. And then the others, like you, Jumana, like Dina and Masri, can help us guide the process for the other mentor groups. Did that clarify? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had, was it Cyrus? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I was kind of just wondering, I know we talked a little bit about like asking them about their past, like before being displaced. And I was just wondering, like, how do we avoid talking about like actually like, the events that caused them to be displaced? Like how do we avoid that when we're trying to talk about like their past, I guess, just so we can stay.
So I think, I mean, one thing, like we've asked, so tell me a little bit about your life when you were in Syria. Where did you live? Was it, did you live in the city? Did you live in the farming communities? You know, kind of focus on just pre that. Like you could start it by saying, we've heard a lot about how you got to where you are, but we would love to learn more about what life was like in Syria for you. And I would just kind of, we offer under the session etiquette in a little bit ways to get out of a conversation if you feel like it's going down roads you are not comfortable with. Does that help?
Yep, thank you. That helps.
You're welcome. May?
Yeah, can I add something? A lot of times, yeah, they feel like talking about the past and telling you a lot about their dramatic, experiences. It's good to listen, and I think sometimes you just have to listen. You don't have to be, as I think yesterday, one of the ladies, I forgot the name. I'm so bad with names. The lady with the background in psychology, she was very helpful with her insight. We're none of us is psychologists or psychiatrists, so we shouldn't be giving any advice, but just giving an ear, sometimes it helps, and say, and turn it into an encouragement. Because I tell sometimes the people when they tell me what they've been through, I said, and wow, and you're still standing. And that's to them sometimes enough. And wow, and you're going to school. And that make them feel that they've already passed. This experience did not break them completely. So they just probably need an ear to listen. And so you don't feel like you have to give something or say something more than just listen to them and tell them, wow, you're doing great, and now you have a future to focus on. And I just want to ask a question just for my own knowledge. If I'm sorry, Rama, to interrupt. Does any of you have any expectation? Like, do you wonder sometimes what do they want from me? Like, you have an idea what skills they might ask you to help them with? You can just make a guess. Yes. Yes, Nina.
Probably English.
English, yes, that's one. And something else?
We spoke yesterday about how we were going to help with their campaign videos.
Uh-huh, yes. Something else? Anybody?
Just being a friend.
Yeah, just being a friend, yeah. Something else?
Life skills essays, maybe?
Yeah, writing essays, that's good. I mean, it could be something very, very basic. It could be applying for another course, applying for another school. It could be something very basic that you think they would not ask you because everybody knows, but they don't know. So it could be something, your help is really appreciated. And as I said, it could be writing an essay, as you mentioned, writing a paragraph, and just editing, doing some editing for them. So there's a lot of things you can do. I just want to give you this because there's so much and so many things that you can do. Sorry for the interruption, Rama.
And that's fine. I also want to remind you guys, you're not here to do the work for them. So I think what May wanted to explain is they may be, there may be ways for you to review some of their work, but I definitely want to emphasize that you're not in this relationship to try and do their work or their schoolwork or any of that, just to kind of guide the process, especially when it comes to English language. So after addressing some of these suggested topics, and we'll definitely send updates of others, I wanted to go over the session process. So the first thing is that we're going to be agreeing on specific day, time, frequency, and we wanted to suggest that if it's possible for everyone to have the same day of the week where we get together with them, with the students, that would definitely simplify the matching, and not the matching, scheduling process. So if there's a way for everybody to kind of agree that, okay, Saturdays are good days for all of us, and we'll do Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever time, Eastern time, then we can stick to that. And we are a small group for now, so it should be relatively easy, at least for the Project Turquoise students, to stick to that. Before I continue, Rasha, you had something to say?
I just wanted to, while we were still talking about the topics to raise, and something I didn't talk about, it was like teach them, or talk about internet searches, and maybe with the suggested topics, like role models, influencers. What does an influencer mean? Things like that, because I also, and probably I learned that from Rama, that many people back there either think of a role model as one religious character, and that's fine, but also when you suggest a topic to look into through the internet, they're on the internet all day. I mean, I think I underestimate their skills at times, but that could be helpful if you can add it to the topics that you can discuss with them.
Right. While they're on the internet all day, they have not, surprisingly, thought of it as like a living library or something that they can go to for a lot of these questions. So while this may seem quite intuitive to you guys, unfortunately it isn't for them. And so just kind of guiding them through that process might be useful. Right, so going back to the logistics of the session, obviously showing up on time, taking notes throughout the session. We're suggesting a 40-minute session because you can use Zoom for 40 minutes free of charge. You don't have to have a paid account on it. Start with framing the conversation, discuss it in detail, and then exchange maybe some references on the topic, and then wrap up with a summary and agreeing on what the next call topic would be about. And then documenting it on the EdSeed system, and we'll show you how to do that. There are fields to put in what topic you discussed, the details of how the session went, and then rating the session if you thought it was great, okay, or not so good. And then the escalation part is if you felt something came up in the session that you weren't very comfortable with, or you weren't clear about, or you needed guidance with, then there's a button on there that you can click and just send a little email saying, the student asked about something that I wasn't very comfortable with, and so can you tell me how to deal with this? And then we will intervene and respond. Any questions on the session format? Yes, Hannah.
Is it just, are we the only ones that are like putting info about the conversation afterwards, or are like peers doing the same?
They will do the same. They will do the same, and we'll see like how to exchange the information. So I do want to remind you guys, this is a new program, and there is a lot that we're learning. So your feedback is going to be very important. Their feedback is equally important. And so as we're doing this, we will make sure as we're getting the feedback, we'll come back to you guys and say, like, give you that information so that you can feel, make use of it when you move forward. And then we'll also make use of it in enhancing this program. Any other questions about the session formats? So before we move on, by a show of hands, you can raise your hand on the platform, or just raise it if you have video on. Are you guys okay with having like the same day for everyone? Let's say a Saturday, and then within a specific time frame on Saturday for the sessions. I'd say yes. All right. Okay, that looks good. Thank you.
I want to say yes in theory, but just to keep in mind that it's going to depend on what the agreed upon time is because of the different time zones.
Sure.
So, yeah, it just depends on when the actual time is.
Sounds good. And again, I think for me, the primary focus to have the same time is for the Project Turquoise team. The Project Turquoise team is made up of like Alex, Lily, Hannah, Zachary, Cyrus, and Mina. And then the others, like for you, Dina, and for Nawad and Jumana, there's still more to be discussed because you guys are working professionals and there's more that you can also offer, and you may be working with them as a group. Yes, Zachary?
What time zone are the students in?
The students are in Jordan, mostly Jordan and Lebanon, and so they're
like 8 hours.
Yeah, 8-hour difference from the East Coast.
Plus seven Rama.
7
hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have to be probably on the earlier side, the
Uh-huh.
meetings. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Depends on where you are, so you probably have to check on your phone the international clock, because like depends on Central Time or Pacific Time.
Right.
So yeah, definitely check.
All right. So before I move on to, well, we'll go to the session etiquette. We'll just cover the online system last. So again, based on feedback from yesterday's call and some of the experiences we've had, we want to make sure that there is a confirmation. So before we move forward, we'll select a time, confirm the time, and then we will use the P2P mentor at VIP.fund email to arrange calls between the different groups. And the reason why we're doing that is we want to make sure that you guys are that the students, the peers, and you guys are honoring the timing. And we also don't want you to feel responsible that someone's going to be getting your personal email or personal phone number and chasing you up for a meeting or for anything else. That for the purpose of the peer-to-peer mentor program, we'll try and mediate communication through either this email to arrange the calls or through the online system to offer feedback. A lot of you guys already have contact with the students because you'd met with them, but, and we're not saying you shouldn't be speaking with them. If you've already started talking to them, feel free to do that. But we also want to make sure that we're responsible to have those sessions go forward in a structured way. We want to confirm the calls 12 hours in advance. If you have to cancel, please don't cancel in less than 12 hours because of the time difference. It creates a lot of disruption. We're telling the same to our other students. But of course, if there's an emergency, just send a notification to the P2P mentor email that you won't be able to attend or make the session. We want to make recommendations about dress code to be sensitive to the range of cultural differences. And so something that's a common ground. T-shirt is acceptable, a shirt is acceptable. We want to recommend that our students kind of avoid tank tops or, things that might be a little bit more revealing, just to kind of be in this general acceptable category for dress code. And in terms of the backgrounds, like yesterday we had a discussion about what environment should you be in. And the idea here is you are a venue to the outside world and you are offering an inspiration. I've worked with refugees who have been in refugee camps in Lebanon and Jordan who are now living very prosperous, affluent lifestyles. And, for the most part, it's being inspired by the outside world that helps compel that forward. But we also want to be sensitive and try not to kind of make it incredibly kind of, the contrast is so incredibly challenging. I do invite you to think about being in nature because that in itself brings out a discussion. If you're outdoors, if you find yourself, like even in your room, the discussion about the backgrounds, if you have trophies or if you have pictures that might spark a conversation, that's definitely plausible. And I think you'll see that you'll be surprised by how some of them lived back home and how similar some of your environments are to the way how some of them have lived back home.
If I may just add, Rama,
Yeah.
one of the students, when I asked her when she was documenting her journey, and I said, I mean, she sent me a picture, and I said, what is that? She said, this is my house. I mean, I live in a relatively upper middle class area in Westchester County in New York, and her house, by comparison, is probably nicer to mine. And now she has to live in a refugee camp. So, yeah. I mean, they didn't all come from modest or extremely modest backgrounds. And they were, the nicest thing about them is how proud they are with where they came from. So that's probably a topic of, I mean, what's the type of homes you lived in? Was it an apartment? Was it, it always teaches them, and it opens up kind of.
Yeah. And I want to also remind you guys that we're having these similar talks with them to make sure that there's comfort level on both sides, because we want this to be a positive experience for both sides. In terms of topics to escalate, I would like to invite you to exercise common sense and kind of go by intuition. And when you're escalating it, that means you're sending it to an email address that I see, that Rasha sees, that Hiba sees. And our aim is to try and support both sides. And usually if something is escalated, we'll have a discussion to see how we can deal with this issue or what the source of the issue is. But for sure, when we have this request going to our students, is under no circumstances is there going to be a request for financial support or do my homework or kind of help me get a visa abroad or any of those kind of things that are just completely out of the scope of this experience. You guys are pen pals in the modern world, and in that sense it's just to exchange experiences. And I would also offer this suggested response: if you feel that the conversation is going in a direction that you're not comfortable with for any reason, is that you just say, I'd like to redirect our conversation back to the topic on the call. And that's why we're suggesting you start the call with a framed topic. And a reminder that we'll have disclaimers for both you and the students. Before we move on, are there any questions about what we've covered? Yes, Mina?
When we do the calls, is it one-on-one or is it like all the Project Turquoise kids and like all the other kids?
So I'm going to go through the sequence. We are going to have group calls to introduce you, to facilitate the conversation, and then it'll be one-on-one from there.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions or comments?
I have one, Rama, if you have a minute.
Sure.
I mean, comment on this is not about helping. Don't respond if he's asking you to do his homework, but maybe they can ask for help. So maybe we can, if this is a shade of asking for help, not doing his homework, but maybe like how would you write a topic paragraph? What does a topic paragraph include? Because that's something that we're we lack training in. I mean, I thought like if we can make a difference between someone asking you to do his homework or someone asking you for help, because I remember that with the other group, the Cambridge students, some did offer to provide scholastic help as such. So maybe we need to fine-tune the parameters of that scholastic help, but just to figure out that this is possible. That's one. Also with the modalities, and I don't know, we're just brainstorming in these meetings. Because Mina suggested the group or one-on-one, would you want to experiment with two of you meeting one of them rather than, I mean, I guess it might be better to be two mentors to a student rather than two students to two mentors. Maybe it could take the burden off one and have someone recollect and figure a way to move a discussion forward. I always think that being in group meetings could just help exchange ideas. Maybe we can think of something like that. Thank you, Mina, for even suggesting it, but maybe not. I'm not saying yes, but I'm saying maybe that's something we need to look into.
So the first session that we'll hold together as a group, we're going to use this feature that Zoom has to break out into different rooms. And what we'll do is have a kind of a uniform set of topics that when you break out, you'll discuss and come back. And maybe you'll use that time to decide whether you feel comfortable just having one-on-one, or you'd like to have a buddy and have kind of two people to one student at a call, on a call.
And maybe Rama, I don't want to jump the gun now with you immediately, but maybe we said that we're going to send you something and ask for your feedback. So if you really have any idea on anything, any topic, including how do you envisage meeting with the students, that's the way in which prototypes or models start. And it's by helping everybody put in their own vision about it.
Yes, no.
Yeah, just I was also wondering if we would be getting the topics that they wanted guidance on in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So just moving forward, the next steps would be that we'll send you an email with the overview of the program, the schedule, teams and group meetings, as well as any other material that we find might be useful, and give you some time to reflect on it for this coming week and provide any feedback you have, any thoughts that you might have about how things will move forward. We want to offer to the Project Turquoise team an additional kind of orientation session where if you guys have any more questions, or if there's more material you'd like us to cover to guide the process, that we could do that in that session next week. And then we'll have the online group meet and greet session where you guys are signing up and meeting the students again and breaking out into these different groups, and you'll have guided topics. And then lastly, we'll have a kickoff for the individual sessions. And for the first time, we'll consider being with you on the session to kind of make it easy and observe and see if there are any challenges. And then from there, just have you guys have the weekly sessions on your own. Questions about that? No? Okay.
Rama, it just occurred to me that if for any reason I can be part of their own, even when they're on their own, for language purposes, and some other mentors can probably volunteer for that also as a food for thought, just to think if that helps in case they've had communication difficulty challenges. Okay. But I'm assuming that you've communicated with them on your own when you were there in Zachary for a week, so you probably had some sort of an expectation of how can this go on. That's it.
All right, Anas, do you want to just walk us through the process of getting online on the system and having the mentors sign up?
Yes, so hi everyone, I'm Anas, I'm a VIP.fund developer. I'll share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, we would head to etsy.me and then click on login, sign up over here. And then you could use your Gmail account or Facebook account to register, or just click here and then choose donor and then the check mark here. And then you will fill your first name, last name, email, password. Click this and register. So I already done that, so I'll just use my personal account and head to login. So.
And I just want to say here, as this is a work in progress, we haven't separated donors from mentors yet. So this is under no circumstance an assumption that you guys are donating. It's just that we haven't created that feature on our system to distinguish between a donor profile and a mentor profile. So you're clicking donor just because of a system limitation.
But also for the time being, we're very grateful because we think you're donating your time and effort and love.
Yeah.
So it's a different currency.
So once you sign up and you activate your account, or if you use the Gmail button, you want me to activate your account, you will see this dashboard over here. You will find the log volunteer hours button and click on it. And you will find this form. You will choose the student or the campaign, for example, Hadi, or not, it depends, but in your case, you would have to choose the student. And then the number of hours you spent with him or spent on helping him with something. And then the date, which is, for example, from 1 April to 2 April or 1 April. And then you would write a short description here if you help him with something. For example, if you reviewed his video script, you would say, I spent 5 hours, and you would write here review video script, for example, or anything else. And then you may want to write a detailed description, which is private for the system, for us, saying that, for example, like a few notes on him, maybe we help together in something or something else. And then you would rate the session, which is it's good, satisfactory, or great. And if you faced any challenges or feel that you need support on any topic, you would just say here yes, and then describe the problem or challenge or the kind of support you need, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And then you would fill the topic discussed on the session here, and then just click add.
May I, Anas, sorry, just to interrupt. This is a note for you. If you can move this last field to the very top, okay. What was the topic discussed? Yeah. And then I want to make a clear distinction between this. So the topic that was discussed in this case, let's say you discuss sports with them. So we talked about sports. If you go up, scroll up a little bit, Anas, there were 2 additional open fields. The first one, short description, it's public. This is shown on the student campaign. And so if you, Anas, if you can just go to one of the student campaigns. There, as part of the public view, people who donate time or donate money get listed on the student campaign. And this is with the aim of inspiring others out there in the community who might want to do the same. So it actually lists the activities under the backers of the campaign, and the description that you offer in that field that says public appears here. So it says like supported student developing campaign. So you want to be mindful that that's going to be in the public view. Let's go back please to the dashboard.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is, you were showing us an example of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an example here, Rasha said, redrafted Ghassan's video scripts, and it was 2 hours of support. Now, if we go back to the EdSeed dashboard, the next paragraph, which is detailed description, private, only you and the system administrator can see this. That's when you give the session details. Like we, talked about sports. He asked a question about whatever, more of a journal of the call. And then the last paragraph, where it says what topics were discussed, that's just kind of the title. Let's say it's the title of the session. So it was sports, or it was volunteerism, or what have you. Any questions about the dashboard?
I have a question, Rama, because some of the students who will be joining are not necessarily yet students with full-fledged published campaigns. So would they be able to say, without choosing a campaign necessarily, they would say, I helped one of the students on the network do X, Y, and Z? If that's a possibility. I don't know, other than that, if you would only be helping students who have published campaigns. So would like to know who are. So in other words, I mean, the students with published campaigns have the benefit of you can actually log in and read about them. So you would get to know them more by reading their campaigns. But for the others who are now drafting their campaigns or didn't publish them,
yeah,
they would still probably be part of your population, your targeted population.
Right. So I think, and Anas, correct me if I'm wrong, up here on the top, it says Hadi Al-Thib, and then it has his campaign title. But if the student does not yet have a campaign, they can still be listed here. They'll still be listed here, right, Anas?
For now, no, but I'll modify it to be listed here.
Yeah,
okay, all right.
The students who had attendees the sessions, the training with us.
Right. So it's any student who has already been trained with us, whether or not they have a campaign live.
Okay. So.
All right. Thanks, Anas. Any questions? I can't see people's hands because there's a view.
Okay, should I stop?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah. Nope. All right, we're good. Hamad, you had a question?
Yeah, the thing is, my account is registered as a student, not as a donor. Do I have to make a new account on a different email, or is there a specific way?
Yeah, as we discussed, you're a unique case because you're going to be part of a different group. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So this really concludes the presentation that we have. I'd like to open it up for any other questions you guys might have before we wrap up the call. Yes, Mina?
What is the campaign?
What is a campaign? Okay, that's a good question. So the students, we have a program called EdSeed, and if you go to edseed.me, it's a crowdfunding website for refugee youth higher education. So what we're doing is our students, they approach us, they need funding for their university degrees or for programs that they're learning online, how to code or whatnot. And so they launch campaigns on the website, and then we help them crowdfund for that education. And any money that they raise goes directly to the university or the institution that's offering that educational program. And so
how are we involved in that?
How are you guys involved in that? So Project Turquoise reached out to us at the VIP Fund and said, we have a group of students we met that we would like to fund. And so we said, okay, this is the vehicle that we have for funding students. So you guys will be considered as a specialty fund that is funding these students. But we want to treat them in the same process and the same, that we onboard the other students who are not funded by Project Turquoise. One of the ways that you can participate in terms of these one-on-one sessions with the students is to help them create their campaigns or build on their campaigns. And so, for example, with the PT funded students, they have these live campaigns. And if you can show us one of the PT campaigns. They have the campaigns say that they're fully funded, but we still ask them to provide updates on a regular basis about how their experience is going with the university. And so they're asked to provide videos on a regular basis. They're asked to provide photos, and they're also asked to provide blogs that give our community updates on how they're moving forward. So if you look at this young man's campaign, Ziad, you could see that he's got a video, he's got photos. It says that the grant was sponsored by Project Turquoise. And if you move forward below, it doesn't show you a list of any other backers. Project Turquoise is the only backer financially. But if you start volunteering with this person and supporting them, then you'll be listed, and the hours that you're putting into it will get listed on there. For non-Project Turquoise funded students, you'll see that there's a very similar format, but some of them have only 50% of their funding. Others have been also fully funded, and there will be a different seed donor for their grants.
Mina, if I may add, when Project Turquoise contacted us, we've actually gone through the same screening and training with the PT kids as we do usually with our regular students. We had a list of about 10 to 12, I remember, students whom you met. And as far as we're concerned, we were just offered these as candidates. So we followed them with their diplomas, knew who passed and who didn't, had their degrees, talked to them, had them put up their campaigns and trained them to do that. So those are the people we got from you, from the PT project. We do the same, but on individual basis with students who approach us on our platform seeking support for their higher education, which is why we have probably now about 30, 40 students we're trying to help. And you can only sponsor or mentor peer-to-peer your PT group. And when you're more comfortable, maybe you would like to do that with others. But now you start with whoever you're comfortable with. I mean, and that would be taken into account during the pairing process.
Yes, Susan?
But I do think that some of our kids are paired up with people who are not the kids that are part of that Project Turquoise funded group, right? Based on that spreadsheet, because I had put kids, like I just did one-to-one matchups, unless you guys have rearranged them so that more than one Project Turquoise student is mentoring a one of the other kids there.
No, actually, Susan, if I may, because I was the one who started the Excel sheet. Actually, this Excel sheet was simply a list whereby I'm listing what our students do and include, I mean, it was more from the perspective of the mentor than the mentee, him or herself. So when I suggested, I just highlighted to you the names of the PT group. And if it was totally up to you, if they only wanted, it was not a match. The Excel sheet was not an attempt to match mentor and mentee. We were just putting that for the purposes of a census. We just wanted to know who's available, and then everything else we were aware that should come later on. So that is only a fact sheet. Who's there and who can provide help.
Yeah, and so the way to look at it, Susan, is that in the first phase, they will match up with the students that they've met, but there's certainly openings for them to volunteer and work with other students, specifically the more senior PT student members that possibly have more experience or have more relevant experience. Like we talked about, maybe pairing up Alex with one of our medical students who are not part of the Zatari group. So I think at this stage, if the PT students can think about their interests and let's say the senior PT students like Alex and maybe Zachary can think about how they can offer up help in other ways, we can match them up with non-Zatari group members.
Because we do have some kids that are volunteering that did not go to Jordan, so they didn't necessarily meet them, but they went to Lebanon. I think only Mina hasn't been on the 2 trips, but so I'm curious just to know how you might have then more than one person, like you said, 2 to 1. Is that how you're envisioning it?
So let's discuss this offline, the three of us, me, you, and Rasha, and see what the
Okay.
best case scenario is. And we'll definitely take all of the, like, your recommendations into consideration. We don't have a
I mean,
set.
whatever you think. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. I thought I was trying to pair up people so that everybody had a mentor and mentee.
No. That was basically, we were just doing a head count. Who's available and who do we need to help? The other one, we felt that that's something that really needs to be discussed as part of the conditions of the success of any encounter, and what your students are comfortable with. What basically, that's why I just told you that it was only a head count and taking into account the comfort zone of the PT students and other mentors. And we were going to discuss the details later on. Who our beneficiaries are, kind of. And maybe if, as long as I'm talking, maybe for both Dina and Jumana, if we can, I mean, there is a specific student who's the campaign that Anas first chose. If you can think of him, because I think this is someone who would be a great match for both of you, or either of you. Hadi Deeb is the kid, because he's studying psychology at Essex. I mean, I'm jumping the gun, I know, but just to keep in mind, maybe just to make you feel familiar with the process.
Thank you.
Sure.
Alex?
This is more of a PT group question, so I apologize if I'm taking up time of others by mentioning this, but I know it's coming up on two. I just want to make sure a few things. One, is there a way that we could have some of those PowerPoints that you've been sharing with us on this call so that we can prepare for the next session? And then two, you mentioned there's going to be another session for the PT group before we then meet the kids.
Well, I'm suggesting if needed, like if you felt after receiving the content, you still needed another session, we can host one next week.
I think that just if the PT group can collectively decide on this call when our sessions are going to be on a weekly basis, and like kind of set that time down, I think that's totally fine. I think any other information can be sent via an email, but including those PowerPoints, which I think would be extremely helpful, along with maybe I can speak with you offline about thinking through some sort of foundational information that everyone can have from our group about the Syrian crisis and the like.
Sounds great. Yeah, so I guess we can get the PT group on the call last together just to agree. Were there any other questions? Zachary, you had a question?
Oh no, I didn't have a question. I was just saying when Susan said that that Mina was the only person that didn't go on either trip.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't been on either of them either.
Yes.
Okay. Cyrus, did you have a question?
I just had a question, sorry. So I may have misheard, but does that mean that for the people that went on the Jordan trip that like we potentially won't be paired up with the people that were our buddies when we were on the trip? Like is like shared interest going to take precedence in like pairing people up?
No. The primary consideration is that you've met and you have a person that you want to maintain a relationship with, and then the secondary is based on shared interest. If people haven't met, then they can pair up with people based on interest.
And that's how I tried to pair them up initially, because if some of them said they were interested in matching up with a particular person, I tried to keep that in mind, but we'll talk about that and figure out the best way to handle it.
Okay, great. So I wanted to mention to Jumana and Dina and Nawar that the mentorship program that we usually run is 4 sessions, and there's a lot more detail. We kind of opted this time to go straight to the point and go into the logistics for the benefit of the PT students. But I'm happy to continue with you guys and do the more detailed mentorship session that's designed for people that do have a kind of a 5 or a 10-year experience professionally that are serving as kind of lifelong mentors and coaches, and So if you guys want to go through that, I'm happy to continue with you, and we can agree on a timing offline for this. And then so that kind of, we're parting this group into two groups, the PT students and then the other mentor group.
Rama, so in other words, you don't think that the PT students would benefit from the rest of your presentation?
I mean, they're certainly welcome, but I feel it might be.
We don't want to extend their patience.
Yeah, it might be a stretch, especially for the early university students and the high school students.
Okay.
Yeah, Rama, from my end, I'd like to hear more, but also perhaps have a conversation as well.
Sure. Yeah, and that's what that track is designed for, is to really have more of a conversation and agree on an approach, and yeah, so that would be great. Super. All right. So what I wanted to do last then is to say, okay, let's just have the PT students stay on the call so that you guys can agree on timing and schedules. And then for the rest, I thank you for your participation, and we can get in touch with you over email to follow up.
Thank you, and bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, and so the floor is for the PT students to decide on dates and times that work for you.
Yeah, I was gonna throw out real quick, like a Sunday at maybe 11 in the morning. I don't know if that's something that's convenient for folks.
May I just say that Sunday is a school, I mean, is a work day in the